2,000 years ago, a machine drowned, and with it, an entire chapter of human brilliance went silent. Not a sword, not a crown, not a scroll, a gearbox built to tame the sky, a device so out of place in its own era that modern men stared at it and said, "Impossible." Stay until the end, for the final twist is not only what it did, but what it proves. That time itself was once engineered, then forgotten. Tonight, we hunt the most dangerous kind of artifact, the kind that rewrites what you thought humanity could do. This is the story of the Antikythera Mechanism, recovered from a shipwreck near Antikythera, now displayed in the National Archaeological Museum. And I promise you, by the end, you will understand, clearly, why scholars call it the first known device to mechanize astronomical prediction, and why its existence changes the timeline of technology. We are taught a clean story, ancient world dark ages modern science computers. But history is not clean. History is a battlefield of lost inventions. And some inventions don't merely disappear. They embarrass the future. This machine is one of them. Now, let the curtain rise where all tragedies begin. At sea. The sea is a thief, but sometimes it preserves what fire would destroy. And in the year 1900, the sea decided to return a secret. Greek sponge divers located the wreck by chance in 1900 and spent about a year salvaging treasures with help from the Hellenic Navy. They recovered art, statues, marbles, bronze bodies frozen mid-gesture, the kind of cargo that screams wealth in transit. And among those trophies was a corroded lump of bronze, ignored at first because the sea had chewed it into ugliness. But then someone saw teeth. Not teeth of an animal, teeth of a gear. That moment is the spark that lights the modern world's obsession, because gears imply intention, calculation, design. A mind once built a machine with moving parts to imitate the cosmos. And if that is true, then the ancient world was not as primitive as we were taught. Today, scholars describe the Antikythera mechanism as an ancient Greek mechanical device used to calculate and display astronomical phenomena, and its manufacture is often placed around 100 BCE, give or take, even though the shipwreck itself is earlier 1st century BCE. Britannica notes radiographs revealed 30 gear wheels in the surviving fragments, and no other mechanism of comparable complexity is known from antiquity, nor again until much later medieval clockwork. And here comes the first brutal truth. We do not have the whole machine. We have the surviving fragments, like pages torn from a book, recovered from a burning house. So how do you read a machine that is half missing? You do what modern humans do best. You see through the corrosion. Imagine a device so sophisticated it carried something like a user manual, inscriptions hidden on its covers, locked under corrosion for 2,000 years. And then, science read them. In the early 2000s, researchers deployed microfocus X-ray computed tomography to see beneath the corrosion, count gear teeth, and read inscriptions. A technical account of the CT effort describes how the team could probe the fragments and recover hidden detail, exactly the kind of evidence you need when the object is too fragile to dismantle. This is not guesswork anymore. This is forensic archaeology. And what they found was not random. They found structure. They found cycles. They found the sky turned into gears. Now we open the machine as if it were a stage. Front side first. A calendar tells you what day it is. But this machine dared to tell you what the heavens were doing on that day. Time made visible. Astronomy made mechanical. A major 2021 reconstruction paper in Scientific Reports argues the front display was a planetarium-like cosmos, arranged in rings with outputs for the moon, the Sun, and the planets known to antiquity, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, plus indicators like lunar nodes and date. And here is the most important thing. They didn't invent this claim from imagination. They used inscriptional evidence, text on the device's cover plates describing the cosmos display, including planet names and how the display was arranged. Meaning, the machine itself tells you what it was supposed to do, if you can read its hidden writing. Now, pause and taste what that implies. This was not a toy, not a trinket, not a decorative puzzle. It was a computational instrument, a mechanized model of mathematical astronomy. And the front face was only half the beast, because the back face is where the machine starts predicting. To predict an eclipse is to look the future in the eye, and not blink. Ancient people feared eclipses as omens, but this machine treated them as math. Now watch what that means. A landmark research summary notes two main backdials. Upper backdial, a 19-year calendar based on the Metonic cycle, arranged as a 5-turn spiral. Lower backdial, a Saros eclipse prediction dial, arranged as a 4-turn spiral of 223 lunar months, with glyphs indicating eclipse predictions. Stop and think. 223 lunar months, mechanically stepped, so the user can track eclipse windows. That is not astrology. That is computation. And then comes a detail so human it feels like a wink from the dead. The researchers identified the month names on the calendar. All 12 months, and they were unexpectedly of Corinthian origin, which has implications for where the design tradition might have come from. Translation. The machine doesn't just compute the sky. It carries a cultural fingerprint. The 2021 scientific report's reconstruction describes the mechanism as an astronomical compendium and explicitly includes an Olympiad cycle among its outputs. And the Nature 2008 research line notes surprising findings around the calendar and these cycles, showing the device wasn't just tracking time abstractly, it was anchoring time in the lived schedule of the Greek world. Because time, in human civilization, is not only astronomy. It is festivals. It is navigation. It is agriculture. It is politics. It is when you meet. It is when you worship. It is when you compete. This machine changed time because it turned time into something you could compute and display, not merely observe. Now comes the question that should haunt you. If the ancient world could build this, why did the world not build more? A technology without a tradition is a candle in the wind. Bright, and then gone. So what happened? Britannica emphasizes how singular the device is. A set of scientific dials driven by complex gearing, with nothing comparable surviving from antiquity, and nothing again of similar complexity until much later clockwork traditions. That doesn't mean no one else ever built such things. It means survival is cruel. Bronze gets melted for war and coin. Workshops burn. Libraries collapse. Empires shift priorities. And the mechanism itself. It didn't die in a museum. It drowned on a ship carrying treasures, then sat in darkness for 2 millennia. That's the point. History is not a perfect archive. It is a battlefield with missing bodies. But we can still ask, who might have built a machine like this? And here, the story teases you like a playwright. Because one clue points to a name that echoes through legend. Some have argued, based on cultural and calendrical clues, that the mechanism's tradition might connect to places like Corinthian colonies. Even Syracuse, a city associated with Archimedes. But we must be honest. This is a heritage argument, not a signed confession. Still, history loves this possibility because it fits the era of Hellenistic genius. And the 2021 reconstruction goes further in spirit. It frames the mechanism as mechanized mathematical astronomy incorporating cycles known from Babylonian astronomy and refined with Greek geometry, an ambitious fusion of knowledge systems. If that is true, then this machine is not merely an ancient gadget. It is a snapshot of a scientific civilization thinking in gears. Now we land the final twist. Here is the ending you waited for. The Antikythera Mechanism did not merely display dates. It mechanized prediction. It took scientific ideas, cycles, periods, recurrence, and embodied them in bronze so a human hand could crank the heavens forward and backward. The 2021 Scientific Reports paper calls it the first known device that mechanized the predictions of scientific theories. That phrase should hit you like thunder, because it means something terrifying. The idea behind modern computation, that theory can be made mechanical, is older than we think. This machine didn't change time by magic. It changed time by changing the human relationship to it. From watching to calculating, from fear of omens to scheduled certainty. And the cruelest part? We found it as wreckage, a masterpiece delivered to us as fragments, which means the ancient world may have had more, and the sea has simply not returned them yet. Now speak, one sentence only. Do you think the Antikythera Mechanism was A. a one-off masterpiece, or B. proof of a lost engineering tradition? Comment A or B and tell me why. Next episode, same style, deeper. The Antikythera shipwreck. What else is still down there? Subscribe, because history isn't always written in books. Sometimes it's written in gears.